Worst airport story: one time when I was boarding a plane, I was denied entry. Why? Because apparently to the guys who check people's passports before they board the plane thought I had stolen someone else's passport and committing identity fraud. The thing was that the photo in my passport was me when I had short hair, and when I was boarding the plane I had an afro. I literally had to explain like 10 whole minutes that I'm the same guy and I just grew out my hair. I was at O'Hare and decided to use the men's room. While washing my hands, all I could hear were these horrible sounds coming from some guy in one of the stalls who was in intestinal distress. It would be a humongous, thunderous fart followed by a splash that can only be described as a bowling ball hitting a pool of water. This went for about 3 or 4 rounds. This old guy washing his hands next to me said it didn't sound altogether different than combat in the Korean War. I'm next to go through security and DHS stops the line to run a drug dog through, and it took so long I missed my flight, which caused me to miss my connecting flight. An 8-hour trip turned into 24 hours. Also, we had an emergency landing at an abandoned airfield in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana one time. Those were my last 2 flying experiences, and I hated flying before, but now I just refuse. Not worth the hassle. My friends and family still wonder why I just drive everywhere somehow. I was scheduled to fly from Philadelphia to Chicago. Philadelphia weather was completely clear, but Chicago apparently had snowy weather all day. During boarding, the pilot said there was a short window of time that we could take off during because Chicago was limiting their arrivals. Since airlines have awful boarding systems, it took too much time to board and we missed the window. We deboarded. For the next 8 or 9 hours, the airline delayed the flight a half hour every half hour until they just canceled it around 10 p.m. Since they didn't cancel any flights to Chicago, all of the passengers for the next flights to Chicago also showed up to the airport. By the end of the evening, there were 4 or 5 planes full of passengers for the day's flights to Chicago, all in one general seating area. It was super crowded and miserable. So a few years back, I was on a trip abroad to Canada and NYC. I'm from the UK, and we got stuck at NYC airport for hours due to bad weather. The plane we were catching, we were flying from NYC to a Canadian airport, possibly Ontario, then from there to our connecting flight back to UK, was then delayed due to bad weather. Because 90% of the people on the trip were minors without our legal guardian, they delayed the plane at the Canadian airport, and we had to literally run through customs to the plane heading back home from Europe through Amsterdam, which, for those who don't know, is one of the most secure airports in the world. I had a container of salt from when I was at the Salzburg salt mine. The security person was searching my stuff and finds this, and accidentally pops the top off of this container and the salt spills out. It's crystals and white, and it's white colored, so you can expect what the security person thought it was. TLDR, security guard thought I was smuggling drugs, was actually just salt. I got drunk on $6.50 domestic bottles at a Chili's 2 in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport while my flight kept getting pushed back due to stormy weather. At 11:30 p.m. they finally canceled the flight, but I couldn't find any nearby hotel options that drunk me was satisfied with, so I just slept in the airport, waking up with body and headaches and learning that I had to rebook my flight. I arrived for a morning flight out of my small local airport at the time and learned it had been delayed because American Airlines assigned 2 flight crews and no plane to the route. I had a flight out of Denver that was canceled for reasons never explained, and no other flights to my destination on that airline, again American, were scheduled that day. I had to run from terminal to terminal, coordinating a voucher exchange with a United Airlines gate agent for a flight that took off 8 hours later. After a cruise, so there were 1,000s of people trying to get on their flights. Smaller airport. My airline didn't open the ticket counter until 2 hours before my flight, so I couldn't check in for hours. No place to sit, 1 Starbucks with 100 people in line, no place else to eat or even get a bottle of water. Screaming children everywhere, laying down, taking up multiple seats. Ticket counter finally opens, we get checked in and go through security only to find most of the airport under construction, so again, hardly any place to sit and only 1 restaurant open with a 1.5-hour wait for a table, but couldn't wait since our flight left in 1.5 hours. Landed in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. I had a 2.5-hour layover but got stuck in the plane because the gate was occupied. When I got out, I had about an hour. I walk out and ask an employee where I should go. He points me to the direction. On my way there, another worker asks me what my terminal and gate is and tells me to go a different direction, so I listen to him. It felt like I was going in the wrong direction, but I walk through security, get my passport stamped, and ask the guy if this is where I need to be. He tells me I'm in the terminal all the way across the airport. I sprint in the general direction. I was running at full speed for about 20 minutes. I had no clue where I had to go for sure, as the airport is huge and the numbering and lettering is not the most logical. Some other employee explains where I have to go exactly. I barely made it. After running in a mask for so long, I was dripping in sweat and completely out of breath. Now I do everything possible to avoid that airport, flight attendant here. I worked about a year ago at a small regional airline that flies under the umbrella of the Big Three. So I am the rear fa on this tiny plane, and this woman is there with multiple sclerosis and is on crutches and is in the window seat. She's presently in LGA headed for Kansas City MO. It's during Hurricane Bradley, I think. Anyway, we taxi out and get held on the tarmac with a ground stop for 2.5 hours. We then go back to the gate. We try and pressure everyone to stay on the plane, but some get off. We then go back out on the tarmac for 2.5 more hours, and as we go out to the tarmac, the dark sky rolls in and there is lightning all around our aircraft, so nobody is going anywhere. At this point, there are planes in front and planes behind and grass on either side. Planes start canceling. When they do, they instantly book all the hotels in NYC that are cheap or under $500 for crew. Okay, so the lady with the crutches starts to panic from the lightning and demands to back to the gate and says we are holding her hostage. I said we can have a fire truck pull up to the side and have EMTs backboard her for safety and carry her off. Otherwise, we have to wait till the planes in front or behind us move. Well, the pilots time out. We go back to the gate. After everyone deplanes, they cancel the flight. As I am walking off the plane, I see the woman ask a gate agent if she will get a free room. The gate agent says, "I am sorry, ma'am, we don't give rooms for weather delays, plus all the hotels are booked with crew. You will be available to fly on the next available flight, which is Sunday. Today is Wednesday, as we only fly to Kansas City 2x a week." Plus, the gate agent continued, "We closed the airport, so you aren't allowed to sleep here either." So basically, this handicapped woman was stranded in LGA for 3 days at least, as there might not even be seats on the next flight to Kansas City. No hotels, no food, nowhere to go, and the hotels below $500 were all sold out with crew. One other Pax I heard was going to buy a ticket the next day on SWA flying from Raleigh to Beijing with a layover in Boston. Arrived on time in Boston 11:45 a.m. Plane has a mechanical issue and is grounded. Started boarding the flight at 11:30 p.m. Then those that did board had to deplane, can't get clearance from China airspace. Flight is finally canceled at 1:30 a.m. Spend the night in the domestic terminal, had to leave the international terminal since it closes. Gate opens at 5:30 a.m. and nearly 500 passenger, mostly Chinese, are rushing to get to the gate. Fortunately, we did not board the flight the night before, so our rebook was automatic. Those that boarded had to be processed manually. We boarded the plane at 6:30 a.m. when it arrived back from the repair hangar and was on gate hold for more mail since they had found extra space in the cargo hold. Extra space. Depart for China and arrive after 14 HRS and 45 min in the air. The good thing was we were so tired from cat napping in the terminal we slept most of the flight. At baggage claim, we find out why there is extra space. It seems my luggage and several other passengers whose luggage was in the same container box was left in the repair hangar when they offloaded it to repair the aircraft. Fortunately, my wife's luggage made it. This was her business trip. But it is February, I only have the clothes I am wearing and the change of a shirt and underwear in my carry-on. The hotel got me some toiletries, toothbrush, razor, etc. But you know, the inexpensive razor, single blade, and toddler-sized handle on the toothbrush is a bit challenging. Luggage arrived the day before we were to leave, thankfully. Our host and concierge were great in communicating with the airlines the importance of getting my luggage. Unfortunately, I still had to buy clothes, and Chinese clothes sizes are not made for a beefy American. I bought a XXXXL jacket. I'm an XL in the US, and it barely fit, but it was the largest we could find. Then when we were leaving through customs, the Chinese agents felt it necessary to check my wife's credentials 4 times. Yes, that's right, four times. She is Native American who share Chinese ancestry, and they were trying to determine if I was smuggling a Chinese national out of the country. Our deduction, no hard evidence. Not to mention the extra $125 they charged for the exact same luggage we checked in when we began the flight. The inexperienced ticket agent counted both our suitcases as hers, and therefore she now had an extra case. I thought she was going to find her scalping knife and we were going to jail. Finally got through the security area and into the international terminal. Flight left on time, and we were so glad to put Logan International Boston and Beijing National China behind us. So that 2 airport stories in one trip.